Good morning. Due to COVID-19, the Committee of Adjustment public hearings are being conducted virtually by electronic means through WebEx Webinar, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. Participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, which is moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearings may watch on YouTube. My name is Bruce Mullock, and panel members this morning are Yim Chan, Peter Reid, and Nimrod Salomon. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting via their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone. All participants will automatically be muted upon entry. When an item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. And we ask that you also mute your devices until you are called upon to speak. Now today, Committee of Adjustment is offering attendees the option to appear by video. Those attendees that have registered in advance to attend by video will be temporarily upgraded to panelist status when the item is called. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled, and you will be reinstated on attendee status. Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Members of the public and applicants are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The moderator will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. And on this day, the Committee of Adjustment wishes to also acknowledge with great sadness the death of Toronto Police Service Constable Andrew Hong. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act, 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that apply to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property in order to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on a particular application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and an email address, because the Committee of Adjustment and TLAB will be sending notifications and updates by email only. You may not agree with the decision of the committee. Decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. Procedure. I will call each item in the order that it is listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if so requested by the committee. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and I will comment to you when you are approaching the 5-minute mark. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address, and remember to confine your remarks to the matters that are outlined in the application. The applicant or agent may proceed and may be asked to make a presentation. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then, individuals either in support of or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after that speaker has finished a presentation. When all the speakers are finished, the applicant or agent will have an opportunity to rebut, but only to those issues which were raised by the speakers. And that'll mark the end of discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have the minutes of the last meeting been confirmed by members?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and panel members. Yes, September the 7th and September the 14th hearings.
So I'll look to panel for a motion, please, to approve those 2 sets of minutes. Motion by Mr. Reid. Is there a second to that? It is seconded, Mr. Salomon. Moved and seconded, therefore, to approve. Those in favor, please, show of hands. Motion is carried and those minutes are approved. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have you received any requests for deferral?
Through you, Mr. Chair, for this morning, item number 1630 Louvain Avenue.
Thank you. Number 1630 Louvain panel. Request to defer on that one when we get to it. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any files to be closed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, none for this morning.
Thank you. We'll now proceed to the agenda.
Through you, Mr. Chair, are there any declarations of interest for this morning?
Yes, I do. Yes. Yes, I do. I declare conflict of interest for item number 2 because the agent is my friend, as a friend of mine.
Thank you very much. Okay. And thank you, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer. All right, Ms. Chan on number 2. Okay. Item number 1 on today's agenda, 323 DONLANDS Avenue. On this application, committee has before it revised site plan, floor plans, elevations, the material submitted by the applicant, revised zoning notice. There's also comment from city planning and from engineering and construction services. There are 7 form letters in support from owners and occupants of 325, 329, 333, 315, 313, 307 Donlands, and 74 LESMOUNT. In opposition, there is correspondence from 321 Donlands Avenue. And am I right, moderator, that there is only one speaker on this application? Just the applicant? Okay. So applicant will ask you to join us, please, by stating your name.
Yes, good morning. My name is Leo Mastandre. I'm the agent for the owners at 323 DONLANDS.
Good morning to you. Okay, panel members, any questions for this applicant? Any request for presentation? No, but question? Yes?
Yeah.
Mr. Salomon, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is, are there any changes being made to the variances? I thought that perhaps the lot coverage variance, there was some change being made to that.
Yes, so going through the new zoning bylaw, I noticed that when you're doing a laneway house or a garden suite, the coverage is not part of coverage. So I brought that to the attention of the zoning examiner, so he removed that item. So we are no longer requesting for variance number 3, lot coverage. It's now just the 2 variances as per the zoning notice in front of you. And I believe it's pretty straightforward. We almost, as a right, comply. We have a little bit of extra width going from 8.0 to 8.81. Variance number 2 is really minor in nature. It's basically we're 0.02 above what we're permitted. So and we revised the drawings in accordance with the correspondence from planning, and we removed, I believe, 3 or 4 variances to address their concerns. So in my opinion, I do feel that this now is a better application and does
Thank
meet
you
the
very
board's
much.
action.
Okay. Panel members, any questions further for the applicant? Okay. So we are now dealing with an amended application or revised application. Variance number 3 having been deleted. All right. If there are no further questions, I think we can take this one into committee for a motion, please. Mr. Reed, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. I think this is a very good application, and I'm glad to see that the applicant has responded to the concerns raised by community planning. As he outlined, the variances being requested are minor and really in keeping with the spirit of the laneway suite bylaw. So I move approval of the application subject to the development engineering condition.
Thank you very much. Motion to approve, seconded by Ms. Chan. Moved and seconded to approve the revised application. Those in favor, please show hands. Vote is unanimous to carry the motion, and the application is approved. Panel moves along to number 2, 98 LESMOUNT Avenue. Committee has before it those plans submitted by the applicant. There's a revised site plan, September 19, revised zoning notice, same date, cover letter from the agent. We have comment from community planning and from urban forestry. There is correspondence in support. 87 LESMOUNT, 84 LESMOUNT, 85, 102, and 3 letters in support from 91, 104, LESMOUNT, and 323 O'Connor. There is opposition correspondence as well from 96 and 100 LESMOUNT. So let's have the agent join us, please, by stating your name.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello
Hi.
there. You're with
Hi
the,
there.
You're with the panel now. Please state your name.
Angela Blanes?
Good morning, Angela. Angela, you have 5 minutes to present your application to the panel. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. As you know, it is located on a public commercial laneway, and it's occupied by Oro Vizwabandia family who wish to invest in their home in keeping their family together. It's primarily, there's no garage in the rear. They require a 2-car garage for their family and their children. and for the safety of their rear yard in order to close it up and finish with the rear yard. As you can see from the photos, there's an empty spot right there where the pad would be, where the garage would be located for the two-car garage, and also a laneway suite, which they wish to accommodate their son because he will be attending university. So they would like to have him close to home instead of renting somewhere else. So as you know from the laneway, changing laneways and expanding house option neighborhoods, this would be ideal for the family to incorporate into their residential lot and to also keep their son home. And it could be also a future rental property. The location, as you can see, is it's accessible immediately from all the major arterial roads, and it is a commercial laneway, so it's not uncommon to have this scale and this massing and abutting the laneway. As you can see from the 5 variances that are minor in nature, we did reduce considerably. We worked with the planning department to reduce the height. So it was at 10 feet and they wanted it loft style. So we've reduced it considerably down to 9 feet for the laneway for the suite and 8.5 feet just for the garage at the ground level, which is standard size. Anything lower than that is, you know, it's not very livable. You'd get into like not even basement heights. So that's the proper normal accommodation for the living space. And it was made into a 1-bedroom suite to accommodate their son and for future rental. So the massing and the height proposed for the development will not create any significant issues. As you can see from the scaling of the laneway and the commercial buildings, it fits right into the landscape. The proposal, desirable and appropriate to the development use of the building, the land is being maintained and upgraded as their original use, also for extra safety and improvement to the rear yard. So it is important or imperative to proceed with projects like such for, you know, cleaning up the rear yards, making sure there's proper lighting, improving the aesthetics of the surrounding, especially when you're around commercial buildings as well, abutting commercial. In general, the intent and purpose of the city zoning code and bylaw are maintained. It adheres to the public laneway located and connected to all the major arterial roads and to the laneways and changing laneways of the zoning, which allow for low-rise housing options and major streets to the east of the city. For the east end of the city was primarily why this was incorporated. So therefore, we feel that the general intent and the purpose of the city's zoning code and or bylaw are maintained. And yes, the general intent and purpose of the official plan are maintained, and it promotes orderly urban growth in keeping with the original built, adding a minor 2-car garage, laneway suite, and it enriches the built form and daily lives of the homeowners and the surrounding. So you really want to incorporate more of an urban feel and be able to utilize these spaces. So, and this is one great way that the city has put forth.
I'll ask you to make your final comments now, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so, well, we appreciate your time and consideration, respectfully ask for your support in this application. We feel that it would be to the city's detriment not to see this happen because you really want to, you know, add to the aesthetics of the laneways and make them safe for the community.
Your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we have some speakers standing by. Staff, I'll ask you please, for the speakers that we have coming along, if you just display the site plan that was submitted, the site plan on the application. That's the one. Okay. Very good. Let's have that. Leave that up, and maybe we can zoom in a touch. And we'll go, moderator, do we have two speakers or one?
Mr. Chair, I was unable to contact the person in interest, but the person in opposition is in attendance.
Very good. Okay, then the speaker standing by, please join the panel now by stating your name.
Hi, Chris. You've been unmuted.
Ah, perfect. Okay. Good morning, Council. How are you? Hello?
Bruce, we can't hear you.
Pardon me. Good morning. State your name, please.
Sure. Can you hear me now?
We do hear
Can we
you.
hear it?
The problem was
Okay,
me,
great.
not you.
Sorry. I apologize. Okay, great. Chris Panagiotis from 100 LESMOUNT. Thank you, for your time today. There's nothing, further stepping back. We haven't really seen the revised site plans that were posted on September 19th. So I can't really comment on what has changed from the original site plans, but I can just comment on what we had submitted based on our feedback on the plans that were posted, a few weeks ago. There's nothing further that I wish to add that hasn't been already mentioned in the letter forwarded to Council and Committee last week for our concerns. Although we are not opposed to laneway suites in general, each plan must be looked at specifically, and the parameters that apply on one site may not apply to others. It can't be a blanket approach. Now, our general concerns for this specific site was the overdevelopment of the residential suite and the site itself. Now, the lot size is 25 by 100, and their recommendation would be for a lot coverage of over 60%, which is far above anything in the neighborhood, or I think in the city of Toronto, possibly. With that said, the height concerns was an issue, and also dealing with softscape and water discharge issues. Now, it's kind of funny looking at the presentation here. The pictures that have been taken aren't a true reflection of the current situation, where there is a carport in the back and there's a laneway gate with respects to them having vehicles in the backyard secured. So it's kind of a false misrepresentation of the lot area. As well, going back a few years, the development of the house reached its max of 35%. And I think one of the stipulations at that time, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, was a proposal of a garage at the back, but it was denied because of overdevelopment at that specific time as well. Those are my concerns. I'll leave it to the council and city staff to make the appropriate decisions. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your contribution. Let's see if there are any questions for you. Panel members, any questions of the speaker? No. Okay, then. Let's go back then now to the applicant, who will have a chance to speak in rebuttal, but only to the issues that were raised by the speaker. Go ahead, applicant.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Chris. Very nice to meet you over this meeting, but we did try to contact and knock on your door many times, as did the homeowner, to address your concerns, but there's nobody. The house is vacant. I'm very sorry for the loss. I don't know if it's one of your family members, but nobody's at the property and nobody has been there for a while. So we really did try to reach you. In reference to your lot coverage, there is no variance, so it doesn't pertain to the zoning for this project. And the lot coverage is at 56, so it is within, it wasn't addressed by the planning. And as for the laneway gate in the photos, the gate was put in the back there for temporary safety purposes. And the carport is not a real carport. It's a plastic, one that you incorporate just so it doesn't, for weathering of the cars until they address their garage and laneway suite issues. It's there for temporary. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Panel members, questions for the applicant? Go ahead, Mr. Salomon.
Yeah. My question is, we have a community planning report recommending refusal. I'm wondering what has changed from the original plan to the revised plan?
Okay, in dealing with Chris, the community planner, we did bring down the height considerably. The suite was actually at a loft level of 10 and a half feet. So it was brought down to 9 feet, and the garage was brought down to 8.5 feet instead of 9 feet. Also, we did significantly increase also the rear landscaping between the buildings, and we overhung just like by a foot, I think it's 1.2 inches, and brought the actual footprint. So when they take the main wall to the main wall, they actually address it from the second floor overhangs. That's why it looks a little bit less. But if you address it from the foundation main wall, it increases at 5 meters and allows for more landscaping, and the property has enough landscaping on the sides and especially in the front. It has a great recess back. So those two, those were tweaked as well. Yep.
Okay. Any other questions, panel? I have a question for you. Now, you mentioned soft landscaping that you had taken just a moment ago, that you had taken measures to improve it. But so do you have a change? Right now, number 5 variance reads 0, where 75 is requested. Are you changing that one to reflect the improvement you've made?
Oh, that one is from the rear, abutting the rear lot line. Unfortunately for that one, because of the property's the way it's situated, and it comes right up to the property line. There is right now, even if you see the photo, there is a little bit of a lip as you enter into the property, as most of the homes along the street are abutting. The landscaping was very difficult to attain, to recess it back further, just because of the overhang of the home. So we brought it right up.
I get it. Thank you. All right. Okay then, Mr. Reed.
Thanks. Just to the applicant, I just want to confirm, are you changing any of the variances in the original application based on the revised waiver or revised zoning review?
Are we changing any of the variances?
This is very important. Yeah, the proposal before us has 5 variances. They don't appear to have undergone any revision, and yet you've explained to us all the revisions that you have made in conjunction with city planning. So the 5 variances are still what the panel must decide upon. That's what we're looking at, what we're being asked to consider. So do any of those 5 variances now change to reflect the improvements you've made?
Yes, they have changed, as you see in my presentation letter.
Well, wait a sec. Okay, we have to go very slowly here then to get down what exactly is happening. I want you to look at the 5 variances one by one and to tell us if they need to be amended. The first one is about the ancillary building. It'll be located 0.15 meters from the rear lot line.
Yes, that one we couldn't change any further back.
Just say that it stands. Okay, let's get through this. Okay, how about number 2?
Yeah, it's at 2.7 instead of 2.5 with the latest zoning change. The zoning was amended.
There's no need to explain. We're just dealing here with raw numbers. Yes. So number 2 changes to 2.7, and that's an improvement. Okay.
Yes. And number 3, instead of 5.99, it's actually at 5.94 meters. This is also brought down even more from 5.99. But you have it at 6 meters on your notice.
And it should read 5.94.
94, exactly.
Okay, we're going to make that change officially. That's what we'll be voting on. And number 4.
Number 4, the 45-degree angular plane, because it was taken from the overhang of the main house, you know, it reads as is. It will not change any further.
Okay, it
back
stands,
that
it stands, okay. Number 4 stands. Number 5, soft landscaping one, I think you explained that, that stands too, as it is.
That stands as well, yes, thank you.
Very good. So those two change, just checking that staff have captured those changes. They have. Okay, so this is important now, applicant, because now the panel knows what it's voting on.
Okay.
Okay, I think at this stage we can take this application into committee for a decision. So we'll do that now. Panel members, anyone ready to, with a motion on this? Mr. Reed, go ahead.
Well, I'll start off. I have real concerns with this application. I think that the 2.7 meter separation from the main house is way too small, especially when looking at the elevation, the side elevation, and seeing where the 45-degree angular plane is meant to be. It's way at the back end of the laneway suite. So I can't support this application. I'll give Nimrod a chance to weigh in if he wants.
Go ahead, Nimrod.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Peter's comments. I think it's an overdevelopment on the lot, and essentially the rear yard is taken up almost entirely by the new accessory building laneway suite with really very little separation between the main house and the proposed accessory building. So I think it's an overdevelopment.
I happen to agree. Are you ready with a motion?
Sure.
Nimrod, go ahead.
Sure. I'm going to move a refusal of the proposed variances. They are not minor in nature and don't result in appropriate, desirable development.
Thank you. Is there a second? It is seconded by Mr. Reed. Moved, therefore, and seconded to refuse. Those in favor, show of hands. That's a unanimous vote to carry the motion. The application is refused. And panel moves on to number 3. .344 Jarvis Street. On this application, panel has before it submitted materials. There are 4 photographs of the property received in November. There is comment from City Planning and also from Transportation. And there is opposition correspondence coming from 346 Jarvis, Peter Bivonov, Philip K. 346, Callan and Vanessa Tamariu 346 Jarvis, Yoki Nagano Ao, and Jake King Lim 346 Jarvis, Albert Perez, same address, and Blenner Hassett, same address, Yan Cheng, same address, John and Loma Blenner Hassett 346 also, and Adrian Scott 346. So let's go then to the applicant and have the applicant join us, please, by stating your name.
Hi, my name is Albert Lowe. Can you hear me?
We do hear you.
Okay, good morning, Council. My name is Albert Lowe again at 344 Jarvis. I'm the owner's son representing the owner applicant. So I will do the 5-minute presentation. And we also have our agent Wei here to do the response or to answer any question.
Very good. Okay, your 5 minutes is starting now. This is your chance to present your application to the panel.
Thank you. So currently, 344 Jarvis is a licensed rooming house with 11 rooms, and each room has its own washroom, and tenants share the kitchen and laundry facility. Now, there's a fenced backyard at the back of the building, and after the backyard, there are 9 parking spots, which is not necessarily the best utilization of space in downtown Toronto, especially when all our tenants are on public transit. Now, throughout the years, there have been many inquiry about availability, especially around the fall time when desperate parent and student calling for more affordable accommodation for their school year. Now, in light of the demand and also the city direction for more affordable housing, the owner decided to add an addition to the current building to create more room and to continue to operate it as a licensed rooming house despite the more stringent requirement. So this addition application is to extend the existing building to the fenced backyard at the back and to also up to about the first 2.5 parking spot at the back for 4 storage building. And of course, everything is just going to be well within the property line. There will be 26 rooms total from the existing building and the addition. Now, each room will still have its own washroom, and tenants continue to share the kitchen and laundry facility. Now, there will be 1 kitchen and dining area per floor, which provide more common area space to tenants when compared to the current building. In addition to that, the smallest room floor area is 14.87 square meter, which is about 65% more than the bylaw requirement of 9 square meter. Actually, the initial concept and the design was a 5 storage building fully utilizing 8 out of 9 of the parking spots to create a 40-room building. But in consideration of the neighbor and also the bylaw violation, the owner have decided to scale back the size of the building and the number of rooms. So as a result, with today's application, the design, the new addition of this 4 storage building does not exceed the current building height, and it has incorporated design that take the neighbor in consideration. For example, in a privacy consideration, the window facing north are all high window above the head, and the remaining windows are all designed to face each other in the east and west direction. The south side have no window at all. Now, the remaining or the existing about 6 to 7 parking spots will have no building built on top of it at all. In fact, this parking spot will be replaced with bicycle rack and also a large soft landing. So it's gonna appears less busy than a fully parked lot with cars. And the newer building will also bring the property to a more modern building standard, which will result provide more better quality to the tenant. Now, if we look around the surrounding area, there are already multiple newly built high-rises with much higher density and rental costs, and number is increasing. So on Jarvis Street alone, there are also other rooming houses exceeding 40 rooms and also being converted to high-rises. For example, a couple that we are aware of is 235 and 295 Jarvis. So this project is well below other in the areas in terms of density increase, height increase, and number of room increase. And the most important thing is add back more affordable housing for a large group of people in Toronto who really needed it, especially when other rooming houses have already converted to luxury high-rises in the area. So during the past year, few years actually, even before COVID, the owner and the agent have gone through numerous revision in the design just to try to reduce the impact to the neighbor and to keep the number of bylaw violations to as minimal as possible to make this project viable. So we hope that the council will view this valuable project as an effort to increase more affordable housing in the city and support it for the needs of
I'll ask you to make your final
people.
comment now, please.
Yeah, so the 15 more licensed room will provide a safe environment for 15 more people who cannot afford anything other than a rooming house. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. Panel members, we have some speakers who are standing by to speak. Do you want questions now, or would you rather wait till we've heard the speakers? We'll wait till we've heard the speakers. Okay. Moderator, first speaker, please.
Hi, Peter. You've been unmuted, and you can turn on your video.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, panelists, and thank you very much for the presentation, Albert, and I appreciate actually making revisions to the original application.
Speaker, just state your name for us, please.
Oh, I'm very sorry. I'm Peter Vivona, and I'm the owner of 346 Jarvis Street, Unit F.
Go ahead, you have 5 minutes.
First, I would like to object to the proposed construction because I consider it not a minor but rather a major construction. When we look at the care that the owners of 346 Jarvis Street have, we've taken a lot of effort to make it the aesthetic of the area as an extension to the ballet school. So that the very front of our yards is literally now going to be a proposed wall of our neighbor. There's a number of issues that we have, both that I would say challenge some of the chapters, but also that I would say could be significant hazards as well. First is a question for clarity. So is this going to be a 4-story addition or a 3-story? Because on different applications, I see different number of floors.
See if we can bring up the drawing that reflects the.
So it is
ahead,
4.
Peter.
Okay, thank you. It's 4. Because on the tree application, or the tree declaration, it said 3 floors. So first, the fact that they're building more rooms than they currently have, I would say by default, they're building more home than there actually is right now. I'm not sure how that relates to the city, but I would consider if you're building more than what you currently have, how is that considered minor? The permitted depth, according to Chapter 10104030, by Law 469 2013, is 17 meters. And the alteration is a depth of 30.15 meters. That's almost double the permitted amount. Exterior alteration permitted in 1 addition, and the maximum floor space index permitted to increase according to Chapter 150.25.22 by Law 569/2013 is 0.15 or 55.7 meters square. The proposed as an increase is the floor space index to 1.26 or 476.28 meters square. That's almost 9 times greater than the allowed amount. From a minimum parking perspective, I know that there's changes, so I'm assuming the city will have to review this again, but according to Chapter 115.25.22, they require 7 parking. The original application was for 1. Aside from that, I would say the proposal also creates an issue of light and shade on the townhomes on the front of our homes. And depending on the height relative to our townhomes, we don't have any yards. We literally, our front yard is that small little laneway. Then it looks into a elementary French school yard. That's what's on the other side of that fence.
Let's see if we can pull up that photograph. Staff, there's a photograph in the presentation that shows the front-on view from Jarvis Street of this area. Just leave that up, please. Okay. Go ahead.
So depending on the proposed build, I'm not sure if it'll even be higher than our rooftops, because essentially that is our backyard. All of us have rooftop patios. Essentially, if it does go higher, it could be an obstruction. And if you do go to one of the other pictures that were there, you'll see that there's a fence there. On the other side of that fence is the French school. On the other side of that fence, it backs onto, I think it's an elementary French school. First, I want to say also, like, from a personal living perspective, it would become very unpleasant because essentially you already see with the distance between the 2 homes is already very narrow. By extending that house down, it's going to create a very long, narrow alleyway, not only to create a lot of shade, especially in the front of homes, but also it could be a hazard getting in and out of the back of the homes where many of us have to park and get in and out. I know for myself personally, as the very last unit, I've had many times lots of difficulty getting in and out, especially during the winter, which we pay for the snow removal on our side for that alley, and the neighbor does not contribute, even though he does have parking in that area. If this were to be extended, how would a vehicle even get down there, our paid services to remove the snow? It could become a fire hazard. How will a fire truck get down there? If there's a rescue hazard, this is not a throughway laneway. There's no way out. This backs onto Radio City, a school.
I shall ask you to make your final comment now, please.
Okay, so I do think that this would be an issue of traffic, and I think there could be an issue of garbage, the amount of noise coming with so many additional tenants in a small space. For me, this clearly shows this is more than a minor change. This is a major variance to a current structure that is breaking multiple chapters, and I would like to see that this property get rejected for this proposal.
Your time is up. Thank you.
I-
Panel members,
I have
here's a question for you. Go ahead, Ms. Chan.
Yes, I have a quick question to this speaker. Can you tell us where do you park now? Do you go around the back? Or
I have to drive to the back, and all of the parking is literally in the front of our home.
what do you mean? I thought there's no space. You park on the laneway? Is that
We turn into our parking from the laneway.
from the laneway, and all the parking is sort of at the back of the,
No, every house, with the exception of the last 2 units, the parking is right beside the front door.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So
Yeah, I can see.
you can see how much of a challenge it would be. Already it's a challenge and a hassle to try to get in and out when you have 2 cars going in and out. You can imagine if you're extending it even farther, how much more difficult. Frequently, unfortunately, what we have to do is we have to kind of sometimes pivot into one of the other parking spots, let the other person pass, and then the other person can go through.
Okay, thank you. All right. Let's go to the next speaker then, moderator.
Hi, Vanessa, you've been unmuted and you can turn on your video.
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Vanessa Timario. I'm owner of 346 Jarvis, Unit 5E. And I would ask the moderator, in my letter, I had included a raft of additional photos that show a little bit more about the space. If that's possible to be put up on screen, that will be very helpful.
Okay, we'll see if, I'm sure we can probably come up with those, but you can carry on just as as staff are going through the files to find your photos.
So my neighbor Peter has pretty much covered our concern points as well in terms of that this is presented as a minor variance, but is really a very major variance that would make a lot of difference to all of our lives. I would also like to mention that the laneway is maintained by owners of 346 Jarvis. It is our only point of access to our homes and to our parking. And what I see that if this proposal is approved, that laneway would be occupied by workers, trucks. It's the only way to get a truck to do any work. So this would be detrimental to us in terms of us getting access to our homes on a daily basis. I would also say that the other applications I've been listening to, there's been no there's been no contact or outreach from 344 to any of us neighbors. We are all in communication with each other. We all know each other, and we have not had any communication from 344 about this planning proposal or any kind of constructive dialogue at all. The proposal would completely block units B, C, and D, their light, and it would end up being taller than our current homes. So it would definitely be a major variance. It's a major variance for us. It's a major, major change to our daily lives. So that is what I...
Thank you very much.
I wanted to also illustrate with the photos that the proposed structure is really the depth of a vehicle, not much more than the depth of a vehicle. And like I said, it extending into the alleyway only leaves about a laneway width for us to navigate. And it's not feasible.
Questions for this speaker panel? Mr. Salomon, go ahead.
Yeah, so can you just please explain the parking situation? You come down the laneway, and then where do you park?
Okay, so mine is towards the back. So the last 2 units have a carport. So you physically have to drive down the laneway and make a sharp right into the carport. So this is where Peter was explaining that we have to sort of do a little bit of a maneuver in order to be able to get into our parking. The previous 4 units have their garage by their front door, which means that they have to maneuver within the laneway to park into their parking, or sometimes go to the end of the laneway, turn around, and try it the other way.
Let me ask you, Vanessa, I'm looking at this. Look at the top photograph on the screen now. There's a number of cars there parked rear in.
Yes.
Are,
So
are
where
those
the
your
vehicles-
parking spots, or are they the spots that belong to 344?
You are looking at my parking spot where the picture's been taken. So the
So-
home is to my left, and I'm sort of standing in the carport, looking out. That's how I would be coming out of my car park if I was facing backwards. And the building itself would be the width of those, the depth of those cars. That's where it's coming out.
Okay, so your parking spaces are actually across the laneway from your home, and they are, in a linear sense, they are directly behind the subject property, 344.
Okay, the vehicles that you see there are the parking spaces of 344.
Okay, but the empty
Okay.
spots, how about the empty spots?
They're all theirs. So that side is parking for 344. From the laneway to the right, if you're going down the laneway, you have to turn right to enter our carport, which is invisible in these pictures. I'm standing in the carport on the top picture.
Now I understand. Okay, those spaces belong to 344 that we're looking at.
Correct.
Yes, okay.
And that is where they purport having the building.
Thank you.
So I have a question about then, no matter what size of a building was extended to the back, even if it was one story, that would still impact the laneway, and you would still have the same concern, wouldn't you?
It absolutely would, yes.
And I also have a similar question. That means that currently you're actually using that little bit of extra space on 344 so that you have more room to maneuver. Is that correct?
I believe 344's parking spaces go almost to the end. The last sort of half parking spot does not belong to 344. That is the area that we would be using to turn around.
No, my question is that you find it more convenient now. You actually have a little bit more space because there's not a building or a wall or a fence there, right?
Correct.
So when you, yeah, that's my question. Yeah.
Yes.
So you actually going over the property in order to get out easier.
Similarly, if 344's cars are parked to the back, for them to exit, they have to kind of come onto the laneway up to the top in order to be able to exit. So it's an area that we all use in order to be able to maneuver.
Yeah. Can you tell us also the approximate width of this laneway?
Yes, there is a picture. There is a picture that a neighbor of mine took, and she's got the measuring tape basically showing the width of the laneway. I think it's in her application. There we go.
Okay,
That's it.
There it is. Looks like 116 inches. So, okay. Okay. That'd be
Okay, thank
12,
you.
13 feet? Okay, 116 inches anyway. 9 feet, 9 feet.
9 feet, 8 inches.
Okay. Okay then, if there are no further questions for this speaker, we'll go on to the next speaker, registered and waiting.
Hi, Albert. You've been unmuted and you can turn on your video.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and panel members.
Good morning.
My name is Albert Perez. I am the owner of 342 Jarvis to the south of this property.
Go ahead, Albert.
I am in opposition of the application for the reasons that were mentioned before, such as the building depth, the floor space, parking, and the number of apartments. I won't go over those numbers again. They're not in the nature of the spirit of the Planning Act, the City Planning Act. As the owner of 342 Jarvis, the rooming house will severely impact the enjoyment of the backyard that all my tenants use by further reducing the limited amount of sunlight and airflow presently entering the yard. It will also negatively impact their views and openness as a result of the heightened bulk of the rooming house project. In the downtown area, green space is at a premium, and the reduction in sunlight will negatively impact the growth of the existing plants, shrubs, and overall greenery of the backyard. Consequently, the proposal will severely impact the rental and resale value of my building. The proposed building is not in harmony, respectful, and is out of character with the land use of the immediate neighborhood. The nature of a rooming house attracts transients, further constricting the supply of affordable housing in the downtown core. The proposed building does not offer constructive qualities or improve the general welfare and safety of the immediate neighbors and neighborhood at large. Bluntly speaking, this is an application that places a money-generating scheme over the welfare of the community and more particularly the immediate neighbors. As owner of another property in the immediate area which abuts onto a rooming house, I have firsthand experience with the disturbances at all times of the day and night resulting from arguments between occupants, loud music, and fire alarm, both false and real, which there have been 2 in the past 18 months. These are real fire emergency calls. Police presence is a familiar occurrence. Then the amount of garbage generated results in overflowing garbage bins, not to mention the amount of discarded beds and furniture when one vacates. To some degree, the same applies to incoming tenants that discard belongings that don't fit in the new space or are no longer wanted. This is presently the case at 344 Jarvis with 1 medium-sized bin for 12 occupants. We need to remember that homeless people regularly sift through garbage and recycling bins for food, clothes, or anything that can be monetized. In the process, garbage and recycling are mixed in the same bin, and when bins are full, garbage is strewn all over, requiring daily maintenance. This ghastly sight does nothing for the image of Toronto, especially on a major artery like Jarvis. As already mentioned, if approved, safety issues are a concern, specifically when it comes to fire. 342 Jarvis, my property, which I have owned for more than 18 years, is landlocked. And in case of fire, firemen would not be able to access the rear of my building. To the east is an insurmountable 12-foot chain link fence separating my backyard from the school playground. To the south, 340 Jarvis extends to the end of the lot line, which also has an insurmountable 12-foot wall. The north side, which is the only form of egress by my tenants, has a wooden fence, which is surmountable. Therefore, should a fire prevent residents from exiting onto Jarvis Street, the fire escape staircase leading to the rear of the property would be the only safe choice. However, with the proposed building, the backyard would be a fire trap. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Questions, panel? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the next speaker.
Hi, John. You've been unmuted. John, you've been unmuted. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
We hear you, John. State your name, please.
John, are you still there? You've been unmuted. Please unmute yourself.
Moderator, perhaps we'll come back to John, if you can connect with him and figure out the issue, but we can go on to, I believe there was one more speaker after John?
Yes.
So John, if you can hear me, we're going to come back to you after the next speaker has spoken. We're just having a difficulty hearing you.
Hi, Dominic. You've been unmuted, and you may turn on your video.
Hi there. So my name is Dominic. I'm the son of the owner of Unit A and Unit C of 346 Jarvis Street.
Dominic, please state your full name.
Sorry, my full name is Dominic J. King Lim.
Thank you.
And I'm the son of the owner of Units A and C.
Okay.
And I currently live in Unit C. I'm the father of two newborn twins, so I'd like to address this proposal from my perspective as a new father. So this proposal represents several safety hazards, maybe in breach of Toronto's zoning laws, as well as impose new problems and reductions in quality of life for the current families and residents of the 346 Jarvis townhouses due to the sharp increase in urban density. So here are the reasons why we oppose this proposal. Firstly, fire and medical emergency concerns. As mentioned prior, fire trucks and ambulances will not be able to easily move in and out if the 344 Jarvis extension is built. The lane will become too narrow. Secondly, during the event of a blizzard, heavy snow removal concern is a huge concern as well, because the risk to the safety of residents could be considerable, especially for those living deeper within the main roads, like Unit D, E, and F. Mechanical clearance will become impossible because there will be no room for U-turns for a mini snow plow machine, and there will be nowhere to plow the snow as well. As mentioned prior as well, garage parking inconvenience is another factor. So building this commercial structure will block our cars from being maneuverable into our garages, and will require us to look for parking elsewhere, adding additional costs and inconveniences to the current residents of the 346 Jarvis townhouses. As a father and newborn twins, this is deeply concerning, as I have a car that's maneuverable into our garage, which is, so I'm not sure if it's clarified earlier, but the way the townhouse is built, at the bottom, there's a garage. So at the base of every townhouse is a garage which we can maneuver our cars into, except for units E and F, which have their own parking bay. But for all the other townhouses, we have garages which we can maneuver our cars into. But if this extension were to be built, I think it'll become nearly impossible to actually use the garages for parking purposes. And as mentioned prior, we'll have to look for parking elsewhere. One other factor is the implied intrusion into the 346 Jarvis townhouse laneway. So the 346 Jarvis townhouses share the cost and burden of maintaining the laneway and enjoy right of way in the laneway. The 344 Jarvis extension, 344 Jarvis owner does not share the burden or cost of maintaining the laneway. So he would be essentially freeloading off our responsibilities with the additional 15 rooms. As mentioned prior by Peter as well, this is a zoning law factor. The FSI floor space index allowed is to be 0.15 or 15% of the lot size, and it's being increased to 1.26 times. So it's a huge difference from 0.15 or 15% to 126%. Another zoning law factor is this area was zoned as a residential area, but this proposal turns this property into a commercial structure due to the 26 rooms. One last factor, absentee owner. Despite being zoned as a residential building, the owner of 344 Jarvis does not live at 344 Jarvis. He does not engage with us he has not engaged with us in the past or informed us of his plans for the site, especially since this is such a major project, which will have a direct impact on all our properties and our lives as well moving forward. Two more factors. As mentioned prior by Peter, garbage already is currently an issue. Every Monday we stack our bins on the roadway, but if you were to add 15 additional rooms, there just isn't sufficient room for that many additional garbage bins, because presently our bins do get raided by homeless people regularly, and we do take up a lot of space next to the road just to line our bins. I don't really see how we can realistically.
I'll ask you to make your final comment now, please.
Great. The last comment would be the school disturbance. The proposed construction is next to the playground of a French school, College Français. The construction, noise, pollution, debris during the daytime would interfere with the learning and health of the students for the next few years.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Great.
Any questions
Thanks.
for the speaker panel? No, thank you. Okay, moderator, have we been able, well, let's see if we can establish contact with John. We're circling back now to John, who is a registered speaker and standing by, we think.
Hi, John, you've been unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, John, we do hear you. State your name, please. You are now with the panel.
Hi, it's John Blennerhassett, owner of 346D with my wife, and it's the home of my daughter for the past 6 years. Just to clarify a couple of points
Go
that
ahead.
came up.
You have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
The laneway is a private laneway, which is 9 foot 8 inches at its narrow point where it goes past the two buildings, and it's a dead end. We and 344 have right of access on the laneway. The ownership of the laneway is somewhere lost in history. In terms of parking, the 346 Jarvis, there are 4 townhouses with a single car garage that have to be accessed very carefully from the laneway, and any car bigger than an MGB or a smart car probably doesn't fit. And there are 2 cars with carports at the end, which also have the same limitation, except there's no wall between them. So if one carport's empty, the other guy has a little easier swing at getting in. Basically, we object because it's not a minor variance and it's better handled through a rezoning, which would be a chance to deal with the townhouse concerns of shadowing, daylight, fire safety, and lack of access. The townhouses have laneway access only and back onto high-rise condos at the rear, which was in a form which created some affordable, innovative laneway housing, but there are compromises necessary to permit the development of 346 Jarvis. The consequence of the compromise means we have to now ask for some flexibility from the committee not to exceed some of the zoning requirements on the neighboring properties, because otherwise you're going to box us. You gave up, we don't have a backyard. We back onto Radio City condos, and we have no side exposure except for Unit A, which has a side exposure onto Jarvis Street. The extension at 4 stories high will be located only 10 feet from the front steps and 13 feet from the windows of the units on that 346 Jarvis. This creates limited sunlight and permanent shadows. The rears, as I mentioned, back onto the Radio City condos and the ballet school. We request you not box us in on all 4 sides by approving a 4-story extension in front of us. I mean, the reference to the roof gardens is nice, but if you put a 4-story extension on the neighboring property, you're basically, it's become a periscope. We've got our roof gardens, and all the rest of our side exposures may not be there. And this just doesn't seem to be an orderly, respectful development. 344 may complain they're being asked to compromise because of the fact that the city approved laneway housing 10 years ago, roughly, at their side. But unfortunately, if you're going to have compromises for laneway housing, which is a great way to bring more affordable housing and use land, we're going to have to look at what's possible with the neighbors. And 344's density and FSI is somewhat understated because they've got a very deep lot. I would call it like a hot dog shaped lot, a narrow frontage and great depth, but the back depth creates a mathematical distortion of how crowded the site will be. So we request this be denied by the Committee of Adjustment and go from there.
Thank you very much, John. I've got a couple of questions for you. I think you just answered one. So the townhouse, the line of townhouses, that development goes back 10 years?
I find first reference on the internet 2007 started construction. So
okay.
actually it's pushing 15 years, isn't it?
Very good. Okay, fine. And answer me this question. I've heard a lot of the people in the townhouses saying, you know, they're making the case that because of the very constrained nature of the lane at 9 feet 8 inches, that they actually need to drive on to the parking spaces at 344 a little bit in order to get in and out of their garages. And is it also true that to get in and out of the spaces that are on the other side of the lane, those that belong to 344, do they also have to come onto your property just a little bit?
They don't need to come onto our property because they have more space, more width to the individual parking spaces.
Okay.
And other than hanging a bumper over the where we put our garage, put the air conditioning, and the basically there's no room for them to intrude except in a minor way. But yes, they don't put the wheels on our property, but they certainly do put our bumpers, and they have broken the front steps, front aluminum railing on our property.
I get it. Okay. Very good. Other questions, panel? Thank you very much. Okay. We now, I think, are through with all the registered speakers. That's confirmed by a moderator. Let's return then to the owner or applicant, and the applicant will now have an opportunity to speak in rebuttal, but only to the issues raised by the speakers.
Mr. Chair, we have a second agent who will be responding to the questions.
Thank you. Well, no, we're asking, who's going to respond? Okay, very good, fine. That person will need to state his name or her name.
Hi, good morning. My name's Wei Mao. I'm the agent and designer for the owner. Would you please show up my later submission, the colored site plan?
Site plan?
Yes, there's a colored site plan I later submit.
Okay, hang on a second.
With the color.
We're just locating it now.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you.
Okay,
so
perhaps we can zoom a touch in on this? And go ahead.
Okay. Regarding the depth, floor space index, and parking space, I'd like to provide information of the similar properties that all on the Jarvis Street. There are minor various application already being approved. So one is the depth. So we have proposed 37.15, and it's the 17 meter allowed. And the number 340 Jarvis, they are 29 meter. And the number 342, they are 21.8 meter. Compare, they are 14 meter allowed. And number 338, they are 22.14 meter. Also, the number 505 Jarvis, they are 42.65 meter. Compare, they are 14 meter allowed. So our neighbor number 346, they are, you can see the site plan, they are 45.85 meter, the new building. So number 2 is a floor space index. Our neighbor, south neighbor 342, their floor space index and the increase all approved by the committee. So our floor space index is complied with the bylaw. The 3.1 is the parking space. So consider the neighbor's consideration. So we reduce the parking space to the only one. We know the construction traffic and the lane always time. So we contribution 3 parking space with 65 2 square meter as a soft landscaping and a garden. And also we build the bicycle parking lot that occupy our 2 car space. So we only use only design the 1 car space. That's significantly reduce the traffic for our neighbor. So thank you for the members.
Thank you very much. Here's a question for you. Ms. Chan, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question because your neighbor's comments mainly focus on the use of the laneway. I just would like to know now you have a existing wood fence. How far is your new addition compared to the location of this fence? Is it comparable the same extent to the same location or is further?
It's a little bit further. We only occupy 2.5.
Let's bring up that photograph. There's a photograph that shows the rear. We'll bring that up and maybe this will give us a sense.
It's important to know the new addition compared to the existing location of the end of this fence. Is it comparable or is it your new addition will extend much further?
The new addition probably goes to the car. You can see the gray car.
Yes.
So it will extend another car, 1 car space. That's
the car.
approximation.
Probably the car space here.
And then, okay, then next question is in your new proposal, is there going to be a fence, a new fence extending to the end of your property, or you're going to leave it open?
We consider the traffic, so we want to provide the convenience for our neighbor. So we let the parking space open.
Okay, so you're extending out a little bit from the fence, 1 car space, and then you leave the rest of the backyard without fence.
Yes, we built the new garden with 65 square meter for them.
Yes, okay. That's one question. The second question is that I'd like to know the variance number 2. It says you're allowed to increase 0.15 times of the lot. So do you know your existing FSI? It's the proposed is 1.26. Do you know how much you actually increasing? If you can provide the existing GFA, then we can have some kind of idea.
Existing. So existing GFA is around 3,000 square feet. $3,000. Did you hear?
It's okay. You can provide it. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
So
very good. Any other questions for the applicant? I am not hearing any. So at that point, we can take this application into committee for a motion, for some discussion first, if anyone has comments to make. So we're now in committee on this application. Who'd like to lead off? Are there any comments about it? Mr. Salomon first, Ms. Chan second. Go ahead.
Sure. So my comments are, I think it's a very interesting site. It's very tight. And I think part of the issues relates to the adjacent townhouse site in that it is built very close to the laneway, and they seem to depend on what is happening on this site to be able to ensure that they have access and can maneuver their vehicles into their parking space. I do have a concern with the proposed setbacks from the lane. It appears part of the building is set back a little bit from the lane, but much of the building is built right along the laneway with no setback. And I think that to me that is the problem. I think this would merit going through a rezoning process where more detail and care can be taken to see how the proposal better fits with and what the impacts are to the adjacent townhouse development.
Thank you. Ms. Chan?
Yes, my opinion is slightly different because I think in terms of the planning, the reason for this plan actually in the area and in the type of buildings around it is a good proposal. And I think that the planning of the townhouses has produced an inherited problem for themselves. And I'm not too sure how the new development will have to suffer because of that. And in terms of variance, they do not require a setback. We have only 4 variances in front of us. And to me, it is a supportive proposal due to the need for this type of housing in the area and what they are trying to minimize the impact because there's an existing fence there. And there's a little bit of an angle, and which means that they're going to extend to another 10 feet from that. I do not know that little impact, that little increase will create a large impact of the existing condition. Because if you look at the townhouses themselves have also front steps. Those front steps are right at the edge of the laneway. I think that they actually have created some problem for themselves in the beginning.
Thank you. Mr. Reed, do you have any thoughts on this?
I'll just say I agree with Yim's comments. I don't think it's fair to have 346 rely on the property of 344. There's no right of way that is on title, and I think that the existing depth of 346 is much deeper than the proposal for 344, and I think it's always challenging to hear people objecting to something that's basically going to replicate what they already have. Also, looking at the block itself, it's a wildly mixed block with high rises and deep lots and deep schools. I think this fits in as part of the mixed character of that lot, and I think the variances themselves are defensible.
For my part, I hear your argument. I initially, and I did have the same sense that to rely on the parking at 344 in order to negotiate parking at the row of townhouses wasn't necessarily something the committee had to uphold. But I did have some concerns that we're sort of over-densifying this specific micro site, if you will. But in the context of Jarvis Street right downtown, then it begins to, it does in fact have merit, I think, in creating those extra 13 or the extra 14 units. So I would be able to support this. Or is anyone now ready with a motion on this? Mr. Salomon?
Yeah, no, just to add further comments, I do agree with all the comments that have been mentioned. And, I find it's difficult to understand how the townhouses got built originally. and creating this situation with the access to the laneway. And I think that 3 or 4 story height seems to be reasonable, given that directly across the street are 4-story buildings and even taller buildings just a few buildings away. So yeah, I wouldn't have a problem supporting this. I just would have wished that there was some better consultation to try to arrive at some kind of more resolution to some of the issues.
Yes, I understand. Okay, Ms. Chan, go ahead, please.
I have no further comments, but I have a motion to make for approval with no conditions.
Is there a second to that? That motion is seconded by Mr. Reid. Moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, please, show of hands. And that vote is unanimous to approve the motion and to approve the application. With that, the panel moves along to item number 4 on today's agenda. And that is 154 Claremont Street. On this application, the committee has before it the applicant's submission plus revised site plan, September 19, revised zoning notice, cover letter from the owner, June, cover letter from the agent, September, a previous Committee of Adjustment decision, 2019, and 4 form letters in support, 150, 152, 156, and 158 Claremont. So let's have the applicant join us.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Community Planning has submitted a late response.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll show that up on the screen. There are 3 conditions being imposed, but maybe we'll have further conversations after the applicant has outlined their revisions.
That's community planning. Okay, so panel members, there is a late community planning submission on this, which we'll need to have in mind. Okay. Agent, join us, please. State your name.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Lucas Cocomello from Show Engineering. I'm here representing the homeowners of 154 Claremont Street.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, panel members, any need here for a presentation? Any questions? Question, Ms. Chan first, Mr. Salomon second.
Yes, we need a presentation because the in the supplemental material, there's a revised zoning notice. It's got 14 variances only. So yeah, please have.
You'd like a presentation?
I need a.
Okay. Mr. Cocomello, if you would please go ahead with a presentation on your submission, please.
Okay, thank you. So we were actually in contact with community planning on the original proposal with regards to the public hearing notice that was sent out to the neighbors. We initially went in with about 16 variances being requested for the detached dwelling and the rear auxiliary structure dash garage that we're proposing to have built. But upon speaking with planning, they raised some concerns pertaining to maximum building heights and landscape area towards this project. So while I was speaking with the homeowners on planning's concerns, we both planning and the homeowners had to come up with a compromise on reducing and removing variances from the original public hearing notice that was initially distributed amongst neighbors. So I'll go line item based on the public hearing notice that was distributed on what was revised. Item number 5 on the public hearing. Actually, can we pull up the public hearing notice?
Just give us a moment.
No problem. So item number 5, we reduced the maximum building height from the 10.99 meters that we had initially proposed down to the 10.89. that we're proposing today.
Go slowly here. Okay, we're going to capture that now. So on these ones that you are revising, just go slowly so that staff can capture this is what we'll actually be voting on.
Correct.
So 10.99 becomes 10.89.
Correct.
Go ahead.
So now if we go to item number 6. Item number 6 pertains to maximum side wall height. We have reduced that as well from the 10.99 meters down to the 10.89 meters presented today.
Okay.
If we can flip back to the public hearing notice again. Can we scroll down to item number 14? So item 14 is in reference to the rear detached garage we had initially proposed. Upon speaking with community planning, it was determined that to move forward with this application that we would actually remove this as part of the original scope. And in doing so, we were able to remove items number 14 due to the detached garage, and as well as items number 15 as well.
Okay, so 15 is already off, I think, but am I right on that or wrong? Let's see. No, 15 is still there, so we're going to remove 14 and 15.
Correct.
Very good. We're going to do that now as we
Perfect.
revise the application. Okay. How about 16? Does it stand?
So item number 16 also gets reduced. Public hearing notice notes we propose 11.1 meters. We have since then reduced it down to 11 meters.
It's okay, so it's now at 11. Okay. 11
Yes.
even. Okay, but just let staff capture all those changes and thank you. So
Through
panel,
you,
we're now...
Mr. Chair, sorry, the purpose of application then will have to be amended to remove, also to construct a new one-story ancillary building, detached garage in the rear yard abutting the laneway, if those variances are being removed.
Thank you.
And if
Quite
the
so.
applicant can just confirm that that's correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Very good. So that's how the revised application stands, and that's what the panel of the committee is actually going to be dealing with and deciding on. Okay. Ms. Chan, does that satisfy your thank you very much. Good. Okay, let's now have a look at these conditions that were applied late by city planning and bring that up.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's fine. It's on the screen right now. There are 3 variances that are being imposed. However, be mindful of, conditions that are being imposed. Be mindful of the first condition, because it does state that the proposal be limited to a maximum height of 10.9 meters. However, the applicant has stated that it's 10.89 meters. So I don't believe that we need, or that you would need to include that condition, but 2 and 3 would stand.
Thank you. Got that, panel? Very good. All right, then at this stage, I believe we're in a position to, are there any further questions for the applicant? I think I have one. Now, applicant, you still with us?
Yep.
Okay, applicant, the soft landscaping issue, the soft landscaping variance, you're asking for 22 where 75 is required. And you're probably aware that soft landscaping has become a very sharp focus for us, simply because of the desire of each property to manage its own stormwater to the very largest degree that it can. The trend on single-family properties in the city is in the other direction. It's toward less pervious ground area rather than more. And one decision at a time, the trend is going in the wrong direction. So we're looking at each one of these requests very, very carefully. So my question to you is, why do you have to be so low? Is there anything you can do to improve that number?
So if we can actually zoom in towards the front of the property on the site plan, where the basement walkout is located. Sorry, the front. That's the laneway portion.
Okay, well, what do you need us to do now? You want the front?
Yeah, so where we show the basement walkout.
Okay, let's zoom in on the front there. Okay, I think we see the soft landscaping. Let's zoom in on that, please, staff.
I'd like to actually explain what's actually happening within the front yard. So based on this proposal, the existing front main wall is actually getting pushed back towards the rear of the property by a meter or so to accommodate for the new basement walkout we're trying to propose. Now, in doing so, we were actually able to gain a very small strip of grass in front of the walkout itself. If in the scenario where if we kept that main wall up, we wouldn't have any grass area within the front yard. So upon speaking with planning with regards to the softscaping issue, because I do recognize that it is becoming a larger subject to deal with. By removing the rear auxiliary structure, we were actually able to regain about 6.44 meters square of grass area. Now, the difference in the front yard, I think we need about 6.89, so we don't actually regain the full area of grass that we don't have within the front yard and replace it on the rear yard, but we are able to regain a good portion of it just by reallocating it. So in this scenario, just because of how the front yard is set up, we did actually gain grass area, but we've also tried to gain extra based on the rear yard auxiliary structure removal.
Very, very good, and good. That's good information for us to have. Thank you. Okay, I think we're ready now to go into committee on this application. Moving toward a motion, unless there are any comments first. Mr. Reid, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. I'm happy to bring a motion. I think that this is a reasonable application, and I like the fact that even though there are a large number of variances, the massing of the house is stepped at both the front and the back. I think that goes to limit its impact. And as to the chair's point about soft landscaping, I think the applicant has made an effort to respond to community planning's concerns. And I'd also note that in the boulevard in the front, there's a substantial portion of soft landscape that is part of the application, but not counted for. I believe the variances requested are minor, and this is a desirable development. So I'd move approval of the application as amended, including the amended purpose, subject to those second and third conditions from community planning.
Very good. Thank you for that motion. That is seconded by Ms. Chen. So the revised application is, or a motion to approve the revised application is moved and seconded. All those in favor, please show of hands. Vote is unanimous, and that motion is carried. The application is so approved. Thank you. We move on to number 5 on our agenda, 360 Woodbine Avenue. And on 360 Woodbine, before us we have the submitted materials, cover letter from the agent, an arborist report, March 30th. We have comment from city planning, and we have one form letter in support. Let's have the applicant join us.
Good morning, I'm the agent for the application. My name is Cindy McPhee.
Good morning to you. Okay, panel members, any questions for the agent here? Okay. Okay, so there are no questions? Somehow I'm echoing. Panel members, do you hear me echoing? They do, so.
Oh, is it my? Could be my
Oh.
speaker.
I think that may be the applicant, yes, okay.
Yeah, it could be my speaker. I'm sorry. I will change that. I'm so sorry. One sec.
Okay.
Okay. I think that's changed now. Sorry about that.
Very good, thank you. I think we can take this application into committee.
We're
For a
still
motion.
getting double an echo.
Yes, we are getting an echo, but I think there it's gone. Okay, we're back to the panel. Motion of Ms. Chan, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I would love to have a motion to move for approval, because I think in this area there are two variances. One is the increase of the FSI. I think in this area is quite reasonable request, and I have no problem with this application. But I think planning has have a condition for privacy screen on the north and south edges of the balcony, the rear balcony.
Thank you very much,
And
okay.
with that, I'd like to move for approval.
Okay, including those conditions. Second to that motion? It is seconded, Mr. Salomon. Moved and seconded to approve, subject to planning. Those in favor, please show hands. And the motion is carried by a unanimous vote, and the application is approved. Takes us along to number 6. 26 Norlong Boulevard. On 26 Norlong, we've got the submitted materials. There's a photograph of the trees, cover letter from the agent. There's a list of comparables from the agent, and there is a staff report from Urban Forestry. So let's have the agent join us. Please just state your name.
Hello, this is Gabriel Guiducci. I'm the agent for the file.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Questions for the agent panel? Not hearing any. Okay, then, is anyone on the panel ready with a motion? Mr. Salomon, go ahead.
I think what's being proposed is reasonable and appropriate, and that the variances are minor in nature. I would move approval of the variances subject to urban forestry condition numbers 2 and 3.
Thank you. Second to that? It is seconded. Mr. Reed. Moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, show hands. Motion carried, and the application is so approved, subject to forestry. Thank you. Number 7 is 111 Robinson. Here we are looking at the submitted materials, agent's cover letter, and email correspondence from the agent between the agent and Committee of Adjustment, 26 August. And there's one form letter in support. So let's have the agent join us, please.
Hi, Brian, you've been unmuted.
Yes, good morning, committee. Glad to be with you this morning. I think you can see that this really is quite a minor variance.
Brian,
I know the... Yes?
I'm going to interrupt you for a moment. Just state your name for the record, please.
I beg your pardon. Yeah, it's Brian Abbey of AdTech Building Consultants, and I am the agent for the owner of the property.
If there is one thing you'd like us to know about the application, please tell us what it is.
Well, basically, it's just to legalize what was built illegally back in 1994 when it was converted from a church to townhouses. The permit at that time was just for 2 stories, and illegally they built 3 stories and had access to the attic. And that's what we're trying to legalize.
Okay, thank you. Questions, panel? Okay, so this happened almost 30 years ago.
Yes.
Well, it's good that we're dealing with it. And
Absolutely.
just for the information of everyone listening, the Committee of Adjustment is often or sometimes asked to look at legalizing things that have already been built. We in no way condone construction without building permits. The permitting process is essential. But the way that we look at these applications being asked to legalize is as if they had not been built. Would they have passed our 4 tests? So that's how we'll look at this one. That's the test that we'll be using. We won't be looking at it because it was done almost 30 years ago. Okay, very good. If there are no further questions for the applicant, we can take it into committee. Any thoughts, panel? Mr. Reed, go ahead.
Thanks. I think the point's a good one, that we're looking at this as if it weren't constructed, and in that sense that we have only one variance in front of us, and all the works associated with that are internal to this existing structure, and I can see no negative impacts that come from building in the 3rd floor in the attic space, and so for that reason, I think the variance is minor and is appropriate for the site. So I move approval of the application with no condition.
Thank you. Moved Mr. Reed, seconded Ms. Chan. It is therefore moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, show of hands, please. That's a unanimous vote. The motion's carried, and that application is approved. Thank you. Number 8 is 176 de GRASSI Street. On which application we have the submitted materials before us. There's an arborist report from May. There's a staff report from Urban Forestry. And there is correspondence in support from 163 de GRASSI. So let's have the agent join us. Please just state your name.
My name is Andrew Trotter, 81 81 St. Claren's Avenue, Toronto. I'm the agent designer for this application.
Very good, thank you. Questions, panel? Ms. Chan, go ahead.
I don't have any questions. I can move a motion.
Oh, go for a motion, please.
Yeah, given that, I think the variances they're asking for are minor in nature, and I have no noted concerns for this application. Yeah. And with the forestry condition 2, I'd like to move for approval.
So you are moving to approve with forestry, subject to forestry. Okay, second to that motion. Mr. Salomon. Moved and seconded, subject to approve, subject to forestry. Those in favor, please. Show of hands. Thank you. That motion is carried and the application is approved. Taking us along to number 9, 81 Kent Road. Before us are the submitted materials, a photograph of the tree on the property, and an order to comply, which affects the subject property, issued in February of this year. Okay, let's have the agent join us, please.
St. Clair Avenue West.
Okay, I think we missed the first part. State your name again, please.
My name is Bruno Lopez from MXL Engineering, located at 1649 St. Clair Avenue West.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Morning.
Questions, panel? Just the one question, Bruno. Just tell us how this transpired, that this construction took place.
Yeah, so the homeowner was wrongfully advised by a contractor. He decided to do some home renovations, and one of them was actually an existing condition of the rear canopy that was in disrepair. And I believe they went away doing some work that, of course, requires building permit, even though there is a repair. But of course, has to be permitted. He was wrongfully advised, and here we are today.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, and again, to those watching, the panel will, this is a situation, once again, where we're being asked to legalize something already built. We'll be viewing it as if it wasn't built yet, whether or not we would grant it approval according to the variances sought. Panel members, Mr. Salomon, go ahead, please.
Yeah, what's being proposed is a small rear one-story addition and deck. It is very minor in nature, and I would move approval with no conditions.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Mr. Reed is seconding. Moved therefore and seconded to approve. All in favor? Motion carried. Application approved. Thank you. Number 10 is 7 Dieppe Road. We've got the submitted materials. There's a revised site plan and a revised zoning waiver from September. There is comment from City Planning, and there is support from 5 Dieppe Road in the form of correspondence. Agent, please join us.
Hi, AMR, you've been unmuted.
Hi, good morning. My name is Amar Roba from YEJ Studio, here on behalf of the property owner for 7 Dieppe.
Thank you very much. Panel members on this one, questions for the agent. Mr. Salomon.
Yeah, I understand there's a change to variance number 6. If the applicant can just review what the changes are.
Variant number 6.
And applicant, we're going to go very slowly here to make sure that we capture these changes, because we are actually here revising the application formally. So let's go to number 6 and tell us what it should read.
So the number 6 is, that's in the zoning waiver, correct?
I want you to tell, okay.
Yeah, the lot must have minimum 50% of rear yard area of soft landscape, which is 50.5 meters square. We were proposing 40.53%.
You were proposing what?
40.53%.
That's what you're proposing now, because, okay, so you're changing from 28.9 to 40.
No. So this is the original submission that was done. And then after discussion with planning, this was reduced to, sorry, I need the waiver that was sent last.
Well, did planning discover that you had calculated the soft landscaping incorrectly, or because typically planning would not suggest that you increase the level of hard landscaping?
We decreased. So
you're increasing. No, you're decreasing it from 40 to 28, and you're telling me that planning advised you to do that?
Correct.
Planning advised you to decrease the amount of hard landscaping, or soft landscaping.
Soft landscape.
And tell us, excuse me, just let me finish the question. Why did planning counsel you to do that?
Okay, no, I think you're understanding me wrong. The landscape now, we increased the soft landscape. We're not decreasing the soft landscape. We're increasing the soft landscape, and we are decreasing the hard surface.
Lovely. Now we understand each other. Okay. This is good news. 28.9 is going to become 40.53.
Correct.
Aha. we commend you, and that's good news. That does improve your application very substantially. So we'll make sure that staff have that captured.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So variance number 6 will now read in this case 40.53%, which equates to 40.94 square meters of the rear yard will be maintained as soft landscaping.
Can you confirm that, applicant?
That's there. So it's 40.53%, which equals 40.94 meters square.
Thank you. Are there any other changes to the variances?
No, there's not. That was the only one.
Thank you. Okay. Question, Ms. Chan.
Yes, I just like to know, your revised site plan reflects this change too?
We already sent a revised site plan to planning. I'm not sure if it was attached. Yes, that's the updated site plan. That's correct.
Oh yeah, that's look like the paving is smaller.
Yes.
Yeah. So the second question is, you have a front driveway and you also have a patio, a paved patio. Would you be okay if we suggest to use a permeable material for these areas?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding. So I have a driveway.
Yes, yes. What I'm trying to say, if we suggest to that you will use a permeable material or pavers, will you agree with that?
For where? For which part?
For both, for the front and also for the back.
What we are
You
using
have a
there.
patio.
That's
Yeah.
we are using interlock. We are using interlock here.
For both areas, right? So
For both
yeah,
areas.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pavers. It is not solid. It's not like concrete patio or anything like this. It's pavers.
That's including the driveway, right?
No, no. The driveway is asphalt.
That's my question. Will you use a permeable asphalt?
If I'm using what asphalt? I'm sorry.
The question is, would you be willing to use permeables on the driveway?
Yeah, sure. It's not an issue.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Reed, you had a question? Okay.
It was addressed by Yim's question. Thank you.
Okay. All right then, further questions for the applicant? If there are none, let's take the application into committee. Ms. Chan, go ahead.
Yeah, I think they have addressed the only concern I have with this application too. I like the revision of the soft landscaping, and I like to put up conditions that they will use permeable materials for both the front driveway and also the rear yard patio.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion? It is seconded, Mr. Reed. Moved and seconded to so approve. Those in to so approve to so approve the revised application. Those in favor
with the 40% landscape.
Excuse me, moderator, would you please mute the applicant? We're now in committee, applicant.
With the conditions for permeable pavers.
Yes.
It would be approved as amended.
Yeah, approved as amended. The conditions are in the amended application that we're voting on now. So, we do have a motion. It's moved and seconded to approve the amended application. Those in favor, please show of hands. That's a unanimous vote to carry the motion, and the application is, the revised application is so approved. Thank you very much. Okay, now at this stage, I'm going to, we've got to number 10. We'll come back on number 11, 65 to 87 Heward Avenue. We're going to take a 10-minute recess now and return at 11:40 a.m. Thank you. We resume. Just waiting for a moment to reestablish contact with the panel. Good, there they are. So the panel resumes with consideration of number 11 on the agenda, 65 to 87 HEWARD Avenue. On this application before us are the materials submitted. There's a cover letter from the agent, June. There's an arborist report, also from June. Shadow study. There's a transportation impact study from June. And various presentation materials from the agent from September. There is comment from City Planning and from Transportation Services. And there are staff reports from Urban Forestry and TRCA. There is an opposition, one piece of correspondence from Steve Costa and Brandy Desio at 580 Eastern Avenue, received September the 14th of this year.
Through you, Mr. Chair, staff also received a very late comment from Community Planning this morning. And we can put that up on the screen now. And it appears that they're just imposing one condition, and that would be to tie to drawing A100A, received on June 7th, 2022. And that's up on the screen right now.
Okay, thank you, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer. Very good. So panel, this came in late from planning. Okay. Let's have the agent join us, please.
David Morris, planning consultant for the owner of 65 to 87 HEWARD Avenue.
I'm sorry, you're just a tiny bit faint. I missed your name.
David Morris, I'm the planning consultant for the owner.
Much better, David. Thank you. Okay. Panel members, questions for the agent? I'm not hearing any. So in that case, agent, is there any one thing we should know about your application?
I've prepared a presentation, but I can just give a few very brief remarks about the process. I'd just like to note that we've been working with planning and urban design staff for about 3 years on this application to ensure that the proposal meets the intent of the official plan within this employment area, that's of a scale that meets the urban design guidelines that apply to the area, being the South of Eastern Urban Design Guidelines. And we've also worked with urban design staff to ensure that we could redesign the frontage along HEWARD Avenue and the frontage along Eastern Avenue to do a few things. The first of which was to provide significant improvements to the public realm along both streets through a 3-meter road widening along Eastern Avenue.
Okay, we're getting into more detail here than I think the panel needs. Okay,
I'm happy to answer any questions if there's anything that would like to be clarified.
Very good. Thank you for that. Okay, panel. In that there are no questions, let's take the application into committee for a motion and or discussion first. If Mr. Reid, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. I think this is a really good application, and I even though we heard very briefly from the applicant, I think that 3-meter widening does help out in terms of the kind of reurbanization of Eastern Avenue. I know that the concerns from the residents across the street were around shading and shadow. But I think what is being realized here is an intensification of an underutilized site on a major street. And I think that the materials that have been included go a long way to showing how this is going to fit in well into the neighborhood. So I'd like to move a motion for approval subject to this late planning condition tying it to a one plan.
Thank you. Is there a second? Ms. Chan seconds.
I second it. Also, I will add the comment that it is. I think it's a very good proposal because it really has created a very interesting use for those buildings and the internal or private outdoor space, and the rooftop greenhouses. I think is a very positive proposal. I will support that too.
Thank you. It is moved and seconded to approve, subject to the community planning condition. Those in favor, please show hands. Unanimous vote carries the motion. The application is so approved. That takes panel to number 12, which is 11 Charlotte Street. Where we have the submitted materials before us, cover letter from the agent from June, and a site-specific bylaw from the OMB to amend the general zoning bylaw of the city with respect to the lands known as 11 Charlotte. There is a comment in the form of a staff report from Transportation. So let's have the applicant join us, please.
Hi, Zachary. You've been unmuted, and you may turn on your video.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning, Zachary. Okay.
Morning. My name.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
State your name, please.
Oh, my name is Zachary Fleischer, and my address is 333 Bay Street, Toronto, Suite 3400, and I'm appearing as agent on behalf of Toronto Standard Condominium Corporation number 2546, which manages the existing building at 11 Charlotte.
Thank you. Panel, questions? Presentation required? Ms. Chan, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to have a presentation because in the supplemental materials, there are two staff report and one of, I think maybe I don't understand it, the story of this. It seems that they recommend refusal. One of the reports.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Fleischer, with your presentation, please.
Thank you. And I did have a late presentation submitted to respond to the transportation staff report, which I would note it was subsequently superseded by a revised report which contained no objections and a proposed condition, which I will get into. So here's the presentation. So the building is an existing condo building located in the King Spadina neighborhood, characterized by very tightly knit urban fabric, lots of tall buildings, existing, approved, and under construction, and fantastic access to a variety of transit options, including streetcar with access to Line 1 subway and small right-of-way width. For some background, and as discussed by the chair, the property was subject to a zoning bylaw amendment application, which was approved by the OMB in 2011, pursuant to a settlement between the applicant at the time and the city, which resulted in the enactment of site-specific bylaw 1433/2011 to permit the existing building, which contains 4 levels of below-grade parking, accessed from a public lane via car elevator with 65 parking spaces. The site-specific bylaw requires that one of those 65 parking spaces be used as a car share parking space. However, the parking spaces in the building, thank you, with the next slide, the parking spaces in the building lack public access and can only be accessed either through the lobby from an elevator or the car elevator from the laneway in the rear. And
Just a moment, we'll catch up with you. The next slide, please.
Oh, no, this is good. This slide's perfect.
That was good? Okay.
Yeah, this slide is good. Yes, thank you. And so because the parking garage lacks public access and it can only be accessed by these parking elevators, no car share companies were willing or able to enter into a contract to operate the car share parking space in the building, given the elevator and the access constraints. And so the condominium corporation instead rented out the parking space to residents on a month-by-month basis. And the provision, frankly, was largely forgotten about until it was brought to the attention of the city, who issued an order to comply. And as such, we are here before the committee seeking a variance to dispense with the requirement that one of the 65 existing parking spaces be used as a car share parking space. The variance does not alter the built form of the building, require any interior alterations, or change the number of parking spaces, and as I'll explain, it does meet the 4 tests. If we'll go to the next slide, we can see
I think that may be sufficient. Does that answer your questions, Ms. Chan? Ms. Chan?
Okay, sorry, I was just listening to the whole presentation. But yes, the question really is addressing the car share space. I'm not too clear about the second report suggesting that they will apply for right of way on some other property. I think that he will go to that point.
Maybe we can jump to that. If you could address the question about the right of way.
That's right, I can address that right now. And if we could just flip to the next slide. The site is very constrained, and there's no room, like those 2 glass walls are along the lot line. There's really no space on the site itself for a car share parking space, and no car share companies are willing to operate a space out of the garage. The transportation staff report initially recommended that the variance be refused and that we apply for a car share vehicle parking areas permit, which would allow for us to apply to the city to provide a car share parking space within the right of way. Now, of course, that wouldn't be on the site itself and wouldn't actually provide relief from the bylaw. That would still be required. We discussed with transportation staff and have agreed to continue to apply as a condition to apply for a car share vehicle parking areas permit, which would allow us to apply to the city and determine if there's a good spot in the surrounding area for a car share parking space, although the variance is still required because one can't be put on the site. That said, the area is quite constrained as it is, which are some of the pictures showing, and Charlotte Street is actually used as a TTC streetcar staging ground. So it's not certain whether or not we'll actually be able to provide that off-site, but that said, we're happy to consent to the condition that we apply for a car share vehicle parking permit, and the updated report does note that it's, and I quote, "It's unclear at the time if there's a satisfactory location for a car share space in the area, which can be secured via the CVPA program, and as such, the condition requires the applicant to apply rather than secure the space as a function of the approval," which we're okay with.
Okay. Okay, I think that settles our questions then. Okay then, let's take the application into committee for a motion, please. Ms. Chan, go ahead.
Yeah, when I look at this application and the context of the building, it's true, it's very hard to secure car share space, and I know some areas that they will have like a share parking lot or some, but I think the condition so that it's reduced to just they promise to apply, but it doesn't mean that they will get it, right? So I'm happy with the condition put in, and I can support the application with that condition.
Do you care to make a motion?
Okay, I will make a motion to approve with the transportation conditions. I think transportation report number 2, right? The second one. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion? It is seconded, Mr. Solomon. Those in favor, show of hands, please. And that's a unanimous vote. The motion is carried and the application is so approved. We move on to number 13. 274 Indian Road, Crescent. And on this application, the only materials before the panel are those submitted with the application and one form letter in support from 274 Indian Road, Crescent. So let's have the applicant join us, please. Or the agent.
Good morning. My name is Mary Ellen Lynch. Can you hear me?
Yes, we do, Mary Ellen. Good morning to you. You're with the panel now.
Okay, thanks. I'm with Lynch and Comiso Architects, and I'm the agent for the owner of 274 Indian Road, Crescent.
And Mary Ellen, do you know if Jennifer Franklin is standing by and wants to speak?
I don't believe she was going to speak. She just wanted to be on, and she emailed me earlier saying that she may have had to jump off for meetings. So
very good. Okay.
Yeah.
Panel members, any questions now, or do you want a presentation from the agent? Not hearing any. No. All right then. Let's take the application into committee for a motion, please. Mr. Salomon, please.
I think what's being proposed is appropriate. The variances are minor in nature. There are many three-story homes on the street. I would move approval subject to urban forestry condition number 2.
Is there a second? Seconded, Mr. Reed. Moved and seconded to approve, subject to forestry. Those in favor, show of hands, please. And that's a unanimous vote. The motion is carried. The application is approved. Number 14 is 793 Adelaide Street West. We've got the submission. We have a cover letter from agent. We have an arborist report. We have comment, transportation, also staff report, urban forestry. There are 6 form letters in support. 784, 783, 787, 791, Adelaide West, 145 Walnut Ave, plus 789 Adelaide West. Agent, please join us.
Hi, Marco, you've been unmuted.
Oh. Hello, hi, this is Marco Razzolini. I'm the agent for the application.
Good morning to you. Okay. Questions, panel? No questions? No, okay. Mr. Salomon?
Yeah, I had a question about the front yard area, and is there any way to do permeable material in the front yard, given that the soft landscaping is so low?
So where possible, we can definitely include it. Most of it is going to be built-in concrete steps and retaining walls. If you zoom into the front landscaping there, we have included a planter in between the steps going up and steps going down. That will be used for planting shrubs or flowers, whatever they would want to include. So we've tried to make an effort to add some sort of soft landscape area in there. Right in the center, you can see there's a planter that's kind of flanked by the staircases. Exactly. To add permeable pavers, we can do it from the bottom of the steps for the walkway toward the street.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Chan?
Yes, I have one question about the weird second and the third floor balconies. Are your neighbors concerned with the privacy issues, or?
No one has raised any concerns. We've spoken with all of the surrounding neighbors. No one's expressed any concerns for that. I think it does add some privacy with having them step back rather than the rear wall going all the way up with the balconies protruding out.
So yeah, because they're stacking back, right? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Very good. Let's take this application into committee then for a motion, please. Anyone ready to bring a motion? Mr. Salomon, go ahead, please.
I think although there are a lot of variances, I think they are minor in nature, and cumulatively the variances are minor. I would move approval with no conditions.
Thank you very much. Second on that? It is seconded, Ms. Chan. Moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, please show hands.
One moment, please.
Yes, okay, just a moment, okay.
I think that there's an urban forestry condition number 1, if we could add that in.
I believe there is too, yes.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Forestry to apply, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I missed that. Thank you.
Let's go back then, and moved and seconded to approve subject to forestry. Those in favor, please show hands. Unanimous vote. Motion carried, application so approved. Number 15 is 44 HIGHCROFT. We're looking at the application submission. We have cover letter agent from June, and there is support. 2 letters from 42 and 46. HIGHCROFT, those would appear to be the houses on both sides, next door neighbors on both sides in support. Okay, then we'll ask the agent to join us. Please state your name.
Hello, hi, Mr. Chair, hi, members of the committee. My name is Noor El Gindi, and I'm the agent for 44 HIGHCROFT Road. As you can see, we're proposing a rear yard sunroom and deck addition. We have letters of support. I believe there is no staff report for this application. And we are requesting a building depth of 18.2 meters, whereas the maximum permitted is 17 meters.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Good morning to you. I'm just going to check with the panel to see if they have reviewed all the materials, of course. And let's see if they need a presentation. Panel members? No, the panel has reviewed the materials. They're not asking for a presentation. Any questions?
Okay,
Are there any questions for the agent panel? And there's no questions for you either. So that being the case, we shall take the application into committee for a motion. Ms. Chan, please proceed.
I think this is a very straightforward application, and they're just adding a little one-story additional sunroom at the back, and they'll have support from both neighbors. And there's no reason to refuse this application, so I move for approval with no conditions.
Thank you very much. That does receive a second from Mr. Reed. Moved and seconded to approve, no conditions. All in favor? Unanimous vote. The application is approved.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, on number 16, there has been a request to defer. So let's have the applicant join us. And we have a number of people standing by to speak on this, all registered speakers. So we'll begin first by speaking to the applicant to determine the reason for the deferral request. Applicant, good morning.
Mr. Chair, the architect was in attendance, but I don't see that person right now. I'm going to try to contact that person.
We'll give you a moment to do that, please, because we do. Pardon me. We do need to have representation here from the owners or the applicant. So to those persons standing by who are registered to speak on this application, we're just trying now to connect with the architect who was slated to speak on behalf of the owner.
Hi. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes?
Could you state your name, please?
Yes, my name is Drasko Makcheva, and I'm architect for the subject property.
Very good.
And Robert Francis is supposed to represent through the Committee of Adjustment, but he has a family issue. And also during the weekend, we received a kind of 5 letter of objection. So we decided to defer until we spoke with the neighbors and figured out this matter.
Okay, well, actually, the Committee of Adjustment will decide whether or not to defer. But we want to ask you what if you could just fill out your reasons, please, for wanting to defer. Why do you want to defer?
Because I'm not the agent for Committee of Adjustment. It's Robert Francis, and he has a problem, a family problem, so he cannot come, and he didn't give me the permission to go ahead.
I beg your pardon, he gave you what permission?
To represent him into the
Okay,
QA.
so you're speaking
He
now
just
for...
asked me to
Excuse me,
deferral,
excuse me,
make a deferral.
excuse me.
Yes.
My question to you is, you're representing the agent, Robert Francis. You're the architect on the project. So I'm asking you why. What technical
He's
reasons
supposed to
do you want
represent-
to defer?
Yes.
Tell us why you want to defer.
He didn't give me to represent this application through the COA. He just gave me the permission to defer this application.
The committee,
He's not able to attend the
Okay.
meeting.
the Committee of
Through you.
Adjustment makes that decision. The Committee of Adjustment decides whether or not to grant a deferral. The applicant does not decide that. So,
I'm not the applicant.
I already understand that. I'm going to ask you, okay, would you mute this, the agent, please, or the architect? Okay, now, so, we're not able to get an actual reason for deferral.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there is a
sorry,
deferral,
can
there is
I-
a deferral request.
Yes.
And the letter
So-
does state that for family emergencies, that the agent wasn't able to attend today, as well as because they've received letters of objection, they'd like to speak with the residents.
Okay.
And perhaps make revisions as necessary.
Thank you for
So
that.
that is-
Okay.
I'm just taking from what is in that deferral request memo.
Very good. Okay. Thank you for that. That does help me understand the reason, the actual reason beyond the family issue. Okay. So I'm going to now go speak to those that are standing by patiently and who have pre-registered to speak on this application. And you may have gathered this. The agent would like to defer in order to consult with neighbors, understanding that there is objection to the proposal. So the Committee of Adjustment makes the call as to whether to defer or to go ahead this morning and hear the application and decide on it. But we like to be informed, so I'm going to come to each of you that are standing by with one simple question. Would you be in favor of or opposed to deferral? I'm not going to ask you for any of your concerns about the impact, just your thoughts on whether we should go ahead this morning or whether we should defer and come back to this application at a future date after the agent has taken steps to consult with neighbors. So let's go to the first speaker standing by.
Hi, Katya. You've been unmuted.
Hello?
Good morning. State your name, please. Is that Katya?
Me? Oh, yeah, Katya Rudzik.
Katya, are you in favor of having the application deferred for consultation?
Sure, yes.
Thank you. That's my only question for you. Pardon me for being brief.
Okay.
Let's go to Jean now. Is Jean Whistler ready to speak?
Here. I'm here.
Hello, Jean. Jean, would you be in favor of deferring to allow consultation?
Yes, I am in favor.
Thank you. Let's go ahead now to the banks. Kimberly Banks.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi there, it's Owen Banks. I'm at 32 Louvain Avenue.
Yes, sir. Would you be in favor of deferral?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Kathy Koramizik. Koramsek. Are you there?
Hello.
Hello, Kathy.
Hi, how are you?
Very well, thanks. I just have a simple question for you. Would you be in favor of allowing this application to be deferred in order for the applicant to confer with neighbors?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, Marla Boltman.
Hi, Marla. You've been unmuted.
Hi, sorry, I didn't hear you calling me.
There you go.
It's Marla Bowman, 24 Louvain.
Yes, how are you?
In theory, I am fine with the deferral, but may I ask a question?
Go ahead.
I think as most of the neighbors on the street are not familiar with these kinds of proceedings, how common is it for you to move forward without the applicant on the phone? I think there's a lot of objections to this. So obviously, if the chances that this application will be denied, if the applicant's not on the phone, then, we don't know how the system works generally. Like, if it was denied, if they weren't on the phone, would they be able to reapply? Are you able to give us any information in that regard?
Okay, well, here's general thoughts on that. The applicant is represented on the phone. The architect is with us, and I was speaking to the architect a few moments ago. So if we were to go ahead, the panel would be completely within its rights to do so. But that's why we're asking all of you that are standing by, because the idea of, I understand that consultation could have been better than it was. So if we can get some consultation here, that's probably a smart way to consider going. So my question to you is, would you be in favor of deferral to allow the applicant to consult with neighbors, or do you want to go ahead this morning?
I will agree with my neighbors then and agree to deferral.
Thank you so much. Okay. Okay then, panel. You've heard the thoughts of the neighbors. Generally, there's a thought that the deferral would be fine to allow consultation. So, Ms. Chan, yes.
Yes, I'd like to move to defer, but I would like to note that actually there are two reasons for the deferral. One is the applicant has a family emergency.
Okay.
And also they can use the time to consult, do consultation. But I think neither of those reasons that I think is we can grant a deferral for this application.
You're saying for neither those reasons aren't good enough?
I think either one will be good enough.
Either one would be good enough. Okay. I agree that the consultation would be. I don't agree on the family issue because someone else has been appointed to stand in. Any other thoughts on this application, panel, or is anyone ready with a motion? Ms. Chan, go ahead.
I move to defer this case. Yeah.
Motion to defer. Anyone to second? It is seconded, Mr. Reed. So, moved and seconded to defer. Those in favor, please show hands. Those in favor, please show hands. I missed the vote there. Just okay, yes. It is a unanimous vote. So the motion is carried and the application is deferred. Thank you, panel. And thank you, speakers who are standing by so patiently. We move on now to number 17. 61 Roxborough Drive. Before us are those materials that were submitted with the application. Cover letter, agent. Presentation materials from the agent, September 15. Email correspondence, urban forestry, and staff report, TRCA. So we shall ask the agent to join us, please.
Hi, Katie, you've been unmuted.
Good afternoon. Actually, we should hopefully have Jane Pepino speaking on our behalf today.
Jane's going to speak, okay. Very good. She's registered as a speaker.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon. Jane.
I've lost track of time. Good afternoon, members of committee. Jane Pepino, the law firm of Aird and Burles, 181 Bay Street. I appear on behalf of Fairmont Properties, the agent on behalf of the owner.
Thank you very much.
The materials are before you, and unless there are questions or requirement, it would not be my intention to take more time.
Thank you very much. I'm going to check with the panel to see if they'd like a presentation, first of all, or whether they have questions for you. Panel members, Ms. Chan, go ahead.
Oh, just a very quick one. Can you tell us that the third floor deck or balcony, was it approved by the previous application?
Yes, it was.
It was. I
Yes.
see. You only just changed the roof shape is that
The roof was
before. Yeah.
The roof was taken from slightly sloped at the request of neighbors to a flat roof, and that is the only purpose behind these two variances. The third story had already been approved for the previous roof design.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, if there are no further questions, then we can take this application into committee for a motion, please. Mr. Salomon, carry on.
I think what's being proposed results in appropriate development. The third floor is essentially built into the roof, and the overall height will be slightly lower than what was previously approved. I would move approval of the variances with no conditions.
Thank you. Second there? Second, Mr. Reed. Moved and seconded. Approval. Those in favor, please show hands. And that vote is unanimous to carry the motion and to so approve the application. Number 18 is 149 St. Claren's Avenue. Committee has before it applicant's submission and support letters from 9 owners and occupants along St. Claren's. So let's have the agent, please, to join us.
Good afternoon, committee. My name is Mike De Oliveira. I'm here representing 149 St. Clarence Avenue, and I'm with Replacement Design, located at 911 Davenport Road.
Good afternoon to you. Okay. Okay, panel members, let's just see here. There are no registered speakers in opposition. Panel members, any questions? Okay then. No questions, no request for presentation. In that case, is there any one thing we should know about your application? Mr. De Oliveira.
No, quite simply, everything we were proposing is well within similar approvals in the neighborhood. We're only slightly over the FSI. As you mentioned, we have 9 letters of support. most importantly from the neighbors on either side at 151 and 147. We also have a couple of the other attached houses along that side from 147 onwards. So I believe the application is pretty straightforward and speaks for itself.
Thank you very much. Okay. Let's take the application then into committee for a motion, please. Mr. Reid.
Thanks, Chair. I think this is a good application. Adding the GFA on the third floor rather than going out towards the rear, I think really limits the impacts on the neighbors and keeps to the existing footprint. Additionally, the third floor is stepped in from the front, and with the dormer in the back, that softens any potential impact as well. The variances are minor, and I think this is supportable. So I'll move approval of the application with no conditions.
Thank you very much. That is seconded, Ms. Chan. Moved and seconded. Approval. Those in favor, show of hands, please. And motion is carried. Unanimous vote. The application is so approved. Number 19 is 25 Queensdale Avenue, on which the panel has before it those materials submitted, a photograph of a tree on the property. There's email correspondence from City Planning, and there is support in the form of correspondence from Jody Blakey at 22 Queensdale. So let's have the agent join us, please.
Hi, Chris. You've been unmuted.
Hi, this is Chris Neal, owner of 25 Queensdale Avenue.
Good afternoon. Okay, panel members, questions? Hearing none, let's take the application into committee for a motion, please. Mr. Salomon.
Yeah, I think this is very minor in nature, and I would move approval subject to community planning condition.
Thank you. Mr. Reid seconds. Moved and seconded to approve subject to community planning. Those in favor, show of hands, please. Motion carried. Application approved. Thank you. And we now come to the final application on this morning's agenda, item number 20, 158 ARDAGH Street. On this application, we have the following materials. Application submission, 12 photographs of the property, cover letter from the owners, presentation materials from the agent, September. There is email correspondence from transportation. It's a staff report from transportation. There is correspondence supporting from 432 Armadale, from 263 Jane. There are form letters in support from 165 ARDAGH, 436 and 440 Armadale, and 338 Armadale. And there is opposition from 156 ARDAGH, which would appear to be the house next door. So we shall ask the agent, please, to join us by stating your name.
Mr. Chair, committee, my name is Gabriel Guiducci. I'm the agent for this file.
Thank you. Panel members, presentation, questions? Okay, I just have one question for you. if you would, have you read the letter from the neighbor next door who's objecting to the scale of your project?
Yes, we have.
Any comments on that letter and or thoughts about the content?
Not much, given that I guess none of the point raised are related to our requested variances. So I'm not sure how I can answer some of those comments.
Okay, fine. All right, thank you. It's fair enough. I have noted that you're not making any requests for either depth or height. There's no minor variances in those regards.
Correct.
Okay. Panel members. I guess at this stage we can take the application. Do you have a question, Ms. Chan?
No.
I'll go ahead with the
I have a
motion. then.
motion.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, I agree with the earlier comment that this application does not have a height or depth or area variances. I think it's very reasonable request, and with the transportation two conditions, I will move for approval.
Thank you. Second to that motion. That is seconded, Mr. Salomon. Moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, please show your hands. Very good. That's a unanimous vote. To carry the motion, the application is approved. The morning agenda is therefore completed, and the committee will reconvene. We're going to be in recess now until 2 p.m. this afternoon. So we'll see panel members back at 2 p.m., and we'll be going ahead then with number 21, which is 2241 Dundas West. Thank you.